Friends, on January 7th, 2025, Donald Trump made a statement that shook the entire world. He said, "Greenland and Canada must become part of America, and I may even use force." Now you must be thinking, is this just another controversial statement from Trump? Or is there a bigger plan behind it? Let me tell you a number, $1.5 trillion. That's the value of rare earth minerals hidden just in Greenland. I'll explain in detail how this figure came about later in the video. Those minerals that are used to make your smartphones, electric cars, and fighter jets. And today, who has 90% control over these minerals? China. But wait, the story doesn't end here. The year was 1867. America bought Alaska from Russia for just $7.2 million. People mocked Secretary of State William Seward. Newspapers wrote, "Seward's folly," that's meaning Seward's foolishness. But what is Alaska's value today? More than $500 billion. Oil, gold, fish, strategic military bases. Alaska played a key role in making America a superpower. And this isn't the first time America has tried to buy Greenland. In 1917, during World War I, an offer of $100 million. In 1946, after World War II, again $100 million, and that too in gold. In 2019, Trump tried again, 3 times rejected. But Trump tried for the 4th time in 2025, and this time his tone is completely different. Friends, the question isn't why America wants Greenland and Canada. The real question is, why now? Do you know that at the speed Arctic ice is melting, by 2050, year-round shipping routes will open there? These routes will reduce the distance between Asia and Europe by 40%. This means whoever controls the Arctic will control global trade. And it's not just America in this game. China has announced its Polar Silk Road plan. Russia is reactivating its Arctic military bases. From Greenland's Thule Air Base, America monitors the entire North Atlantic. There are ICBM early warning systems there. If there's ever a nuclear war, Greenland is the first line of defense. America has $750 billion in annual trade with Canada. Canada has the world's 3rd largest oil reserves. And most important, freshwater. The Great Lakes contain 20% of the world's freshwater. So now the question comes, can America really buy these territories? Can it use force? What will Denmark and Canada do? Friends, ahead, I'll tell you the facts that mainstream media hides. Historical documents, economic data, military strategies, and geopolitical chess game. Everything. So like the video and stay tuned because in the next part, I'll show you how America's strategy has evolved from 1917 to today and why experts are saying that the biggest geopolitical battle of the 21st century is going to happen in the Arctic. Friends, to understand America's expansion strategy, we need to go back 258 years. The year 1867, the year when America made its most controversial deal, March 30th, 1867. A secret meeting was taking place in Washington, D.C. American Secretary of State William Seward and Russian diplomat Eduard de Stückel were sitting face to face. Russia needed money. The Crimean War had broken their economy, and America wanted expansion. At 4 a.m., the deal was finalized, $7.2 million. Friends, this amount translates to approximately $145 million in today's terms. With this, America bought 1,418,000 square kilometers of land. Do you know what the per acre cost was? Just 2 cents. What did the newspapers write? Seward's icebox? Seward's icebox. The New York Tribune printed an editorial, "A frozen wilderness, worthless for agriculture." There was a debate in the American Congress. Many senators opposed it. They said, "We need civilized land, not ice rocks." But Seward's strategy was clear. He explained to Congress, "This is necessary to stop Russian expansion. This will strengthen our strategic position in the Pacific." 41 days later, on April 9th, 1867, the Senate approved the treaty, 37 votes to 2. On October 18th, 1867, the Russian flag was lowered in Sitka, and the American flag was raised. Alaska officially became part of America. Now see what happened. In 1880, gold was discovered. The Juneau Gold Rush began. In 1968, North America's largest oil field was found at Prudhoe Bay, 25 billion barrels of oil. To date, oil extracted from Alaska, 18 billion barrels, valued at approximately $1.4 trillion. Not just oil, zinc, gold, silver, lead. Today, Alaska's GDP is $55 billion annually, and most important, military value. During the Cold War, Alaska played a critical role in monitoring the Soviet Union. Even today, there are major Air Force and missile defense installations there. Was it Seward's folly? No, friends. Seward's genius. Remember this pattern, because now I'll show you how America tried to apply this same template to Greenland. First attempt, 1917, World War I. April 6th, 1917, America officially enters World War I. And at exactly that time, a proposal was being prepared in the secret files of the State Department. Friends, during World War I, Denmark was neutral, but geography made them vulnerable. German U-boats were sinking American ships in the Atlantic. America needed a strategic location from where it could monitor the North Atlantic. Secretary of State Robert Lansing sent a confidential proposal to the Danish government. Amount $100 million, a massive amount for that time. In today's terms, this becomes approximately $2.5 billion. Denmark said a straight no, but the interesting thing is that Denmark had sold the Danish West Indies, which today are the U.S. Virgin Islands, to America in 1916 for $25 million. So why refuse for Greenland? There were three reasons. First, Greenland was part of Denmark's national identity. It had been a Danish colony since 1721. Second, strategic location. Denmark understood this land would be invaluable in the future. And third, political pressure. Danish public opinion was strongly against it, but America didn't give up. When Denmark refused in 1917, America made another move. In 1918, during the Versailles Treaty negotiations, American diplomats raised this issue again. This time, the approach was different. A lease proposal. Denmark would keep ownership, but America would get a 99-year lease. Denmark refused again, but the war did open one door, the 1941 U.S.-Danish agreement. Under this agreement, America got permission to build military bases in Greenland for a World War II defense. And this is where the real story begins. Second attempt, 1946, the gold offer. Friends, if you think the 1917 attempt was serious, now listen to what happened in 1946. World War II had ended. The world was divided into two blocks, America and the Soviet Union. The Cold War had begun. What did America see in Greenland during WTG? Strategic perfection. From Greenland, complete control over the Atlantic Ocean, direct air routes to Europe, monitoring of the Soviet Union, perfect location for early warning systems. In 1946, Secretary of State James Burns sent a formal written proposal to the Danish government. This time the offer was $100 million in gold. In today's terms, this amount is approximately $1.5 billion. What was in the proposal? Complete sovereignty transfer. Denmark would receive full payment in gold, because in the post-war era, gold was the most stable currency. State Department classified documents, which were declassified in 1996, tell us that President Harry Truman was personally involved in this deal. He had said, Greenland is the most important piece of real estate in the Northern Hemisphere. Danish Prime Minister Knud Christensen faced a difficult choice. Denmark's economy had been devastated by the war. $100 million in gold could rebuild their economy. But there was massive opposition in the Danish parliament. Both socialist and conservative parties united. Their argument was that Greenland is a symbol of our sovereignty. We cannot sell our soul no matter what the price. Danish newspaper Politiken printed a front-page editorial, Greenland is not for sale at any price. On February 12, 1947, Denmark officially rejected the proposal, but America made a smart move. They said, okay, don't sell, but let us build military bases. And here comes the 1951 Defense Agreement. April 4th, 1951, Denmark and America signed a treaty. Under this treaty, America could build military installations in Greenland. Thule Air Base construction began, which is still operational today. Denmark's sovereignty remained intact. America got what it wanted, strategic control. Friends, the story of Thule Air Base is fascinating in itself. Construction began in 1951. 10,000 workers worked on it. Temperature, minus 30 to minus 50 degrees Celsius. The size of the base? So large it has its own zip code. What's there? Ballistic Missile Early Warning System, BMEWs. The system detects incoming missiles. Detection range, 3,000 miles, meaning if a missile launches from Russia, Thule's radars catch it immediately. Space surveillance network, tracks satellites and space debris, monitoring of 25,000 plus objects, strategic air command operations. During the Cold War, B-52 bombers operated from here with nuclear weapons. How much has America invested? More than $10 billion from 1951 to now. Annual operating costs today, around $300 million. Personnel, 600 U.S. military and civilian staff, plus Danish liaison officers. Now we come to the 21st century. August 18th, 2019. Donald Trump asked his advisors, what if we buy Greenland? Advisors thought, it's a joke. But Trump was serious. The Wall Street Journal broke the story. Laughter erupted worldwide. Memes went viral. Late-night shows made jokes. But Denmark didn't laugh. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said, Greenland is not for sale. It's an absurd discussion. Trump canceled his scheduled Denmark visit. He wrote on Twitter, "Denmark disrespected me. A diplomatic crisis occurred. Tension between NATO allies. But friends, here's the question. Was Trump crazy, or did he see something others couldn't see?" Trump's economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, later revealed, "It was a strategic interest. Greenland has tremendous resources." Pentagon retired generals said in interviews, "Greenland's military importance is increasing." Why? Because Russia has built 6 new Arctic military bases since 2014, modernized the Northern Fleet, developed Poseidon nuclear torpedoes. In 2018, China released its Arctic policy paper, "China is a Near-Arctic State." They started investing in mining projects in Greenland, and most important, climate change. According to NASA data, Greenland's ice sheet is melting at a rate of 280 billion tons per year. Arctic sea ice coverage is decreasing by 13% per decade compared to 1979. Predictions for 2050. Northwest Passage will be navigable year-round. New shipping routes will be 40% faster between Asia-Europe. Offshore oil drilling will be feasible. Tourism industry will boom. According to McKinsey & Company's 2020 report, the Arctic region's economy could reach $280 billion by 2035. Shipping industry alone, $100 billion in savings potential if Arctic routes become fully operational. Oil and gas, 90 billion barrels of oil, 170 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, U.S. Geological Survey estimates. Friends, now do you understand? 1867, bought Alaska. People laughed. Today it's a $500 billion asset. 1917, tried to buy Greenland, rejected, but established military presence. 1946, tried again, rejected again, but got Thule Base. 2019, Trump's attempt, laughed at again, but the conversation started. And now 2025. But friends, what I've told you so far was just history. The real game starts now. Friends, let me tell you about a place where the temperature drops to minus 50 degrees, where there's darkness for 6 months, where no trees grow, just ice. Ice spread across thousands of kilometers. But under this very ice is the world's most dangerous military installation, a place from which the entire world is monitored, where computers decide whether World War III has started or not. Welcome to Thule Air Base, Greenland, the place that most Americans don't even know about, but without which America cannot survive even one day. Come, let me take you inside. It's 6 a.m. Thule Air Base control room. Dozens of screens are glowing. Every screen shows numbers, trajectories, satellite feeds. Suddenly, an alarm sounds. Possible missile launch detected. Origin, northern Russia. Trajectory, calculating. In the next 4 minutes, the officers in this room have to decide. Is this a drill or a real attack? Should they alert the Pentagon? Should they wake up the president? Friends, this isn't science fiction. This is Thule Air Base's daily reality. Let me tell you the real story of this base, the story that was hidden in classified files. The day that almost started World War III, November 9th, 1979. 2:26 a.m., NORAD, North American Aerospace Defense Command. Computers suddenly showed 220 Soviet missiles were heading towards America. National Security Advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski got a phone call. He picked up the phone to call President Carter. Then, a second phone call. "Sir, wait, Thule's radars aren't showing anything." 3 minutes of investigation. And it was later discovered a training tape had accidentally loaded into the computer. False alarm. But if Thule's radars weren't there, America would have launched a retaliatory nuclear strike. World War III would have started. Millions of people would have died. Thule saved the world. Now understand what Thule actually does. Here is installed the AN/FPS-132 radar system, the world's most powerful early warning radar. Its range is 5,000 kilometers. It can see beyond Moscow. What does this radar detect? Ballistic missiles, within 60 seconds of launch. Satellites, 40,000 plus objects orbiting Earth. Space debris, that could be a threat to the International Space Station. Hypersonic weapons, that travel at speeds exceeding Mach 5, 600 plus personnel are stationed at this base. Air Force contractors, scientists, engineers. These people work in 6-month rotations because living here isn't easy. In winter, temperature drops to minus 60 degrees. In summer, maximum 10 degrees. There are no trees here, no grass, just a small town-like setup. Gym, cafeteria, movie theater, chapel. A mini America in the middle of ice. Annual operating budget, $300 to $350 million. In 2018, the U.S. Air Force announced Thule's radar system will be upgraded. Cost, $1.5 billion. The question is, why so much money? Friends, take out a map and look at Earth from above. Greenland is right in the middle between North America, Europe, and Russia. If there's ever a nuclear war, God forbid, Russian ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, will reach America via Greenland. Flight time, 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, America has to detect the missile, inform the president, decide on a counterattack launch without Thule. Detection alone would take 10 to 12 minutes. Only 18 minutes would remain, and that's not enough. But friends, the game has become even more complicated now. In 2018, Russia tested Avangard hypersonic glide vehicle. Speed, Mach 27, meaning 27 times faster than sound. Traditional radars can't track it because it flies in an unpredictable path. But Thule's upgraded systems? They can. In 2021, China tested its hypersonic missile. The Pentagon was shocked. Chairman of Joint Chiefs General Mark Milley said, "This is close to a Sputnik moment," meaning 1957 when the Soviet Union launched the first satellite. And guess what? China's space activities are also monitored from Greenland. Canada, the friendly trap. Now let's talk about Canada. You must be thinking, Canada? But it's already America's ally, a NATO member, a friend. Yes, friends, exactly. And that's the problem. For America. Let me explain. May 12, 1958, Eisenhower administration. The Cold War was at its peak. America and Canada signed a revolutionary agreement, NORAD, North American Aerospace Defense Command. What was this? The air defense of both countries was unified. Shared command, shared resources, shared intelligence. Where is NORAD headquarters? In Colorado Springs, inside Cheyenne Mountain, a nuclear blast-proof underground facility. But where is the actual defense line? In Canada. Spread across the Canadian Arctic are radar stations, missile detection systems, fighter jet bases. These stations detect any threat coming from the north, meaning from Russia. In the 1950s, America built DEW line, Distant Early Warning Line. 63 radar stations spread across Canada's Arctic, from Alaska to Greenland. Cost $600 million. And that too in the 1950s. In today's terms, about $6 billion. Maintaining these stations was a nightmare. 50-degree temperature. Supplies had to be delivered by planes. Personnel had to be rotated every few weeks. But it was working. Soviet bombers could be tracked. Then technology changed. Missiles replaced bombers. DEW line became obsolete. In 1985, it was replaced with the North Warning System. 47 automated radar stations. Modern, computerized, satellite-linked. Cost $1.4 billion. America paid 60%. Canada paid 40%. But location? All in Canada. Now comes the interesting part. In 2007, Russia's President Vladimir Putin sent his bombers near Canadian airspace. Show of force. Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper made a statement. Canada's Arctic sovereignty is non-negotiable. America remained silent. Why? Because technically, those radars and bases in the Canadian Arctic, they're on Canadian territory. America is just allowed to operate there. Now imagine, what will happen if Canada ever decides we don't want American military presence? America's entire northern defense line will collapse. Pentagon war game exercises have tested this scenario multiple times. Scenario: Canada suddenly becomes hostile, or China-Russia somehow influences the Canadian government. Result: America is left with only Alaska bases, and they're not enough. For Russian bombers and missiles? A direct path opens to the American heartland. Detection time gets halved. Response time critically reduced. The China factor. In 2017, an incident occurred. A Chinese company bid to buy an abandoned naval base in Greenland. Denmark almost agreed. When Denmark found out, there was panic. Calls came from the Pentagon. Meetings were held in NATO. Message was clear. Don't even think about it. Denmark canceled the deal. The Danish government itself bought that base. Same year, China offered to build airports in Greenland. Investment, $600 million. Again, the Pentagon got nervous. Again, Denmark was pressured. Again, the deal was canceled. In 2018, U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis personally went to Denmark. Message was simple. We'll pay for the airports, just don't let China in. Result, the U.S. funded $12.1 million for airport expansion. What's actually happening in the Arctic? Right now. Friends, now let me show you what's actually happening in the Arctic. Right now. Russia's Arctic militarization. Vladimir Putin ordered after 2014, remilitarize the Arctic. 6 new military bases on Arctic islands, Northern Fleet expansion, 50-plus new vessels, including nuclear submarines. Airfields reactivation, Soviet-era abandoned bases made operational again, 40,000 troops, Arctic brigade formations. Most terrifying, Poseidon nuclear torpedo. This is an autonomous underwater drone. Nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed, range unlimited. Speed, 100-plus kilometers per hour underwater. Depth, can go to 1,000 meters, where traditional defenses can't reach. Target? American coastal cities. New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco. These cities are on the coast. Poseidon can create a tsunami, a radioactive tsunami. And where will it be launched from? Arctic bases. China's Arctic strategy. In 2018, China released China's Arctic Policy White Paper. The very first line was shocking. China is a near Arctic state. Check the geography. The distance between China and the Arctic Circle is more than 3,400 kilometers. How are they near Arctic? But China doesn't care about geography. They started Polar Silk Road, built icebreakers, 2 operational, 1 under construction, research stations, in Iceland, Norway, Svalbard, investment, in infrastructure projects in Finland, Sweden, Norway, observer status in Arctic Council since 2013. In 2021, China and Russia conducted joint military exercises in the Bering Sea on America's doorstep. Canada's impossible position. Now think about Canada's position. On one side, America, their biggest ally, biggest trading partner, $750 billion in annual trade. On the other side, Canada's own sovereignty, its own Arctic territory, which is 20% of the world's Arctic landmass. Well, what does the Canadian Arctic have? Northwest Passage, the shipping route that could become a gold mine in the future, oil and gas reserves still unexplored, rare earth minerals, billions of dollars worth, fresh water. Great Lakes contain 20% of the world's fresh water. Canada's population, 40 million. America's, 335 million. Military spending, Canada's, $27 billion annually. America's, $850 billion. Who will defend the Canadian Arctic? Canada alone? That's impossible. With America? Then where did sovereignty go? Climate change, the game changer. And now the biggest factor, climate change. Arctic ice is melting. Look at the facts. From 1979 to 2023, 13% per decade decrease in Arctic sea ice coverage. Greenland ice sheet, 280 billion tons of ice loss every year. 2050 prediction, Northwest Passage will be navigable 6 to 8 months of the year. 2070, possibly year-round navigation. What does this mean? Shipping routes, Rotterdam, Europe to Shanghai, China. Traditional Suez Canal route, 21,000 kilometers. Arctic route, 15,000 kilometer. Saving 6,000 kilometers. Time saving, 10-15 days less. Fuel saving, 20-30% less. Cost saving, per ship $300,000 to $600,000. If global shipping volume uses this route, total savings, $100+ billion annually. And guess what? Where will these routes pass? Between the Canadian Arctic and Greenland. But friends, shipping is just the beginning. Ice melting makes accessible offshore oil drilling sites, mineral deposits, fishing grounds, and most important, submarine routes. For nuclear submarines, the Arctic is a perfect hiding place under thick ice. Detection is difficult, movement is easy. But if the ice melts, detecting submarines will become easier. Surveillance satellites can see directly. That's why America needs permanent bases in Greenland, a complete control over Canadian Arctic, surveillance systems everywhere, quick response capability, submarines, fighters, missiles. And that's why Trump said in 2019, let's buy Greenland. And that's why he's saying again in 2025, Greenland and Canada with force if needed. But friends, what I've told you so far was just military and strategy. Now comes the real game, money. Friends, let me tell you a story. Year 2013. In the southern part of Greenland is a small village, Kvanefjeld. Only 1-200 people live here. Fishermen, hunters, people living simple lives. One day, a Chinese company arrives, General Nice. They say, we want to mine here. We'll bring jobs to your village. We'll bring money. The village people are happy. After all, unemployment in Greenland is more than 60%. But then American intelligence agencies spring into action. Meetings start happening at the Pentagon. Calls come to the Danish government. Why? Because buried near that small village is the world's largest reserve of rare earth minerals. And the Chinese company wanted to dig it up. What happened in the end? The project was canceled. The Chinese company was kicked out. Now the question is, why such haste? Why such fear? Come, let me tell you what's really hidden under Greenland's soil. Rare earth minerals. The new oil. Friends, first understand what rare earth minerals are. These are 17 metals without which modern technology is incomplete. Your smartphone? They're in it. Your headphones? They're in them too. Electric car battery? Completely dependent on them. Most important metals are neodymium for making powerful magnets, praseodymium in aircraft engines, dysprosium in wind turbines, terbium in LED screens, europium in laser technology. Now, what's the problem? Who produces 90% of these metals? China. Yes, friends, China has a monopoly over the entire world, and it uses this power as a political weapon. In 2010, there was a dispute between Japan and China over the Senkaku Islands. What did China do? Immediately stopped rare earth minerals supply to Japan. Japan's entire electronics industry shook. Toyota, Sony, Panasonic, all companies had to stop production. In the end, Japan had to bow down. The dispute quieted down. Supply resumed. China showed the same weapon to America in 2019 during the trade war. The signal was clear. We have the power to stop your economy. Now comes Greenland. The U.S. Geological Survey issued a report in 2013. It estimated rare earth minerals buried in Greenland are worth approximately $1.5 trillion. Where are these reserves? Kvanefjeld project in Greenland. Estimated reserve, 11 million tons of rare earth oxide. Will contain neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium. Estimated value, $380 billion. Project duration, 30 to 40 years. Tanbreeze project. Estimated reserve, 50 million tons. Uranium will also be found, along with it. Estimated value, more than $700 billion. But friends, these are just the reserves that have been discovered. 80% of Greenland is still covered in ice. Geologists say, what's visible is just the beginning. Now think, if Greenland's reserves are fully developed, what will happen? Electric vehicle industry, which will be an $800 billion market by 2030, completely dependent on rare earth minerals. Every electric car uses 1 kilogram of neodymium. Tesla makes 2 million cars every year, meaning 2 million kilograms of neodymium. 1 kilogram costs about $100. Total, $200 million for just one company. Global electric vehicle production will reach 30 million per year by 2030. Total need? 30,000 tons of neodymium annually. Today's total global production? Only 7,000 tons, meaning there's a 4-fold shortage, and all control is in China's hands. Now, if Greenland's reserves come into play, America can end dependence on China completely. Oil and gas, the Arctic's black gold. Friends, now let me tell you another shocking thing. In 2008, the U.S. Geological Survey conducted a secret study of the Arctic region. When the report came, there was commotion in Washington. What was in the report? Buried in the Arctic region, 31 billion barrels of oil, 13% of the world's undiscovered oil reserves, 1,670 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, 30% of the world's gas reserves, 44 billion barrels of natural gas liquids. And where is most of this? In Greenland and the Canadian Arctic. Off the coast of Greenland, in Davis Strait and Baffin Bay, geologists have found huge oil fields. Estimates? Northeast Greenland, 3 billion barrels of oil. West Greenland, 18 billion barrels of oil. Total potential reserves, 31 billion barrels. 1 barrel of oil costs $80 today. 31 billion barrels means $2.5 trillion if calculated at today's prices. But there's a problem. Extraction. Extracting oil in the Arctic is extremely expensive. Icy sea, dangerous weather, remote location. Setting up one oil rig costs $5 to $7 billion. Still, oil companies are crazy for it. Why? Because climate change is changing the game. Friends, see a contradiction. Global warming is bad, we all know. But for oil companies, it's a golden opportunity. Ice is melting, sea routes are opening, areas that were previously out of reach are now accessible. In 2008, licenses for oil drilling in Greenland started being issued. To which companies? ExxonMobil, American company. Chevron, also American company. Cairn Energy, Scottish. China National Offshore Oil Corporation, Chinese. By 2013, a total of 60 licenses had been issued. But then came the problem: environment. In 2010, British Petroleum had an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. 4.9 billion barrels of oil spread into the sea. The environment was devastated. The company was fined $65 billion. After this, drilling in Greenland almost stopped. Public opposition, pressure from environmental organizations, and Danish government caution. But friends, the oil is still there, under the earth. And as oil scarcity increases in the world, eyes will turn to Greenland again. Canada, the resource superpower. Now let's talk about Canada. Friends, Canada is a country that has almost everything. Oil, gas, minerals, forests, water, everything in abundance. Let me tell you in numbers how rich Canada is. Canada has the world's third largest oil reserves, 170 billion barrels, only after Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. But Canada's oil is a bit different. It's oil sands, oil mixed with sand. in Alberta province, in the Athabasca region. This oil is difficult to extract. It's expensive. It also harms the environment, but the quantity is so much that everything works out. Today, Canada produces 4.5 million barrels of oil daily. And where does it export? 90% to America. Value? About $100 billion every year. Natural gas. Canada has natural gas reserves of about 2,800 trillion cubic feet. And now with new technology, shale gas is also being extracted in British Columbia. This will increase reserves further in the next 10 years. Minerals? Canada is at the forefront in the world. Uranium production, 2nd place. Nickel, 4th place. Gold, 5th place. Copper, 11th place. Diamonds, 3rd place. Total mining industry value, $70 billion annually. Forests. Canada has forests on more than 30% of its land. Total area, 330 million hectares. Timber export every year, $35 billion. Freshwater, the most valuable resource. But friends, now let me tell you about Canada's most valuable thing, which will be worth more than gold in the coming times. Freshwater. Canada has 20% of the world's freshwater, second only to Brazil. Great Lakes, 5 huge lakes, which are between America and Canada. They contain 21% of the world's surface fresh water. How much water is this? 22,700 cubic kilometers. And friends, water scarcity is increasing worldwide. The United Nations report says by 2030, 40% of the world's population will face severe drinking water shortage. Now think, when there's such a water shortage, what will be the value of Canada's Great Lakes? The World Bank estimates by 2050, there could be wars over water. And Canada has so much water it could sell to the whole world. But currently, there's a law. Canada cannot export its fresh water. This natural resource is protected. But for how long? When the whole world is thirsty and America is also desperate for water, then what will happen? Fisheries, the underwater wealth. Friends, now let's talk about something that might not seem very big, but is extremely important. Fisheries. 90% of Greenland's economy comes from fish exports. Total value? $1 billion annually. For a small island, this is a very big amount. Main fish, Greenland halibut, most expensive. Shrimp, largest quantity. Cod, high demand in Europe. But climate change has changed the game. The sea is warming. Fish are moving north in search of cold water. And where are they coming? Near Greenland and the Canadian Arctic, Norway, Iceland, European Union. All countries now want fishing rights in Greenland's waters. In 2013, the European Union made an agreement with Greenland, 180 million euros annually, just for fishing rights. Canada's situation? Even better. Canada's fishing industry? $6 billion annually. Salmon, lobster, crab, everything. The total value. So friends, now let me add up all the numbers. Greenland's total potential wealth. Rare earth minerals, $1.5 trillion. Oil and gas, $2.5 trillion. Fisheries, $1 billion per year. Tourism and others, $500 billion. Total estimated value, $4 to $5 trillion. Canada's total wealth, oil reserves, $14 trillion. Natural gas, $3 trillion. Minerals, countless. Forests, $1 trillion. Freshwater, priceless. Total estimated value, more than $30 trillion. Now you tell me, is Trump crazy or smart? But friends, this was just the story of resources. The real game is still to come. Friends, so far we've seen history, strategy, and wealth. But now comes the most important question. Who is all this for? And who will win in the end? Let me show you a picture. Imagine a huge chessboard. 3 main players are sitting on it, America, China, and Russia. And the board is the Arctic. Every move means billions of dollars. Every mistake could result in war. This isn't a story, friends. This is today's reality. Come, let me show you what each player is betting. China's Arctic ambition. January 26, 2018. In Beijing, China's government issued a document, China's Arctic Policy. Reading the first line, the whole world was surprised. China considers itself a near-Arctic state. Friends, China is 1,400 kilometers away from the Arctic. Still, it's saying, we are an Arctic country. Why? Because China has seen the future. China's entire strategy is hidden in 3 pillars. First pillar, economic investment. China has started the Polar Silk Road, the Arctic version of its Belt and Road project. Where is China investing? In Iceland, 2013, free trade agreement. Total investment, more than $500 million. Port facilities, fishing industry. In Norway, stake in mining companies. Technology partnership. Investment, $2 billion. In Finland and Sweden, infrastructure projects. Railway lines to the Arctic. Total investment, $3 billion. In Greenland, this is China's most dangerous move. In 2016, Chinese mining company General Nice bought an old naval base in northern Greenland. Price? Just $13.5 million. When the Danish government found out, there was panic. Calls came from the Pentagon. Meetings were held in NATO. In the end, the Danish government itself bought that base to take it away from China. In 2018, another attempt to build airports. China offered $600 million. Again, America stopped it. They gave money themselves for building airports. Second pillar, icebreakers, friends. To work in the Arctic, you need special ships, icebreakers. These ships can break thick ice. Let's see how many icebreakers there are and who has them. Russia, more than 40, most in the world. China, 3, 2 operational, 1 under construction. America, only 2, and both are old. Canada, 6. China is building 3 more new icebreakers by 2025. Total investment, $5 billion. Third pillar, scientific research. China has established 2 research centers in the Arctic. Station on Svalbard Island near Norway, joint research facility in Iceland. Every year it sends scientific expeditions, formally for climate research. Actually, to map resources. By 2049, when the Chinese Communist Party's centennial year comes, China wants to become the world's #1 power, and for that, it needs energy security, Arctic oil and gas, trade routes to reduce shipping costs, strategic presence to encircle America. China's plan is simple. Buy with money what can't be obtained with force. Russia's Arctic domination friends, when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Russia abandoned its Arctic bases. There was no money for operations. The military had weakened. But in 2007, a dramatic event occurred. August 2nd, 2007. A Russian submarine descended to the North Pole in the ocean depths under the ice. There, Russian scientists planted a titanium flag on the seafloor. The message was clear. This is our land. There was an uproar worldwide. Canada protested. America condemned. But Russia didn't care. Vladimir Putin declared in 2014, the Arctic is Russia's future. What happened after that? Military bases reconstruction. 6 new military bases on Arctic islands, airfields modernization for fighter aircraft, missile defense system, S-400 deployment, total investment more than $5 billion. Northern Fleet expansion, new nuclear submarines, more than 10, warships and destroyers, more than 20, naval aircraft, more than 50. Most terrifying, Poseidon. Torpedo. This is an autonomous nuclear torpedo. Runs on nuclear power. Carries nuclear weapons. Range, unlimited, because it runs on nuclear power. Depth, up to 1,000 meters. Speed, 100 kilometers per hour underwater. Explosive power, 2 megatons, 100 times more than Hiroshima. This is designed to target coastal cities. New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco. Radioactive tsunami in 1 attack. And where will it be launched from? Arctic submarine bases. But, friends, Russia isn't just playing a military game. It has also made a brilliant economic move. Northern Sea Route. This is a shipping route that runs along Russia's northern coast. The shortest route from Europe to Asia. Traditional Suez Canal route, 21,000 kilometers. Northern Sea Route, 12,000 kilometers. Savings, 9,000 kilometers. Russia made a law. To pass through this route, you need permission from Russia, and you have to pay a fee. How many ships passed in 2023? More than 3,300. How much did Russia earn? $500 million just from fees? Estimate for 2030? 8,000 ships annually. Earnings? $3 billion per year. Greenland, caught in the middle. Friends, now let's talk about those who are stuck in the middle of this entire game, the people of Greenland. Greenland's population? Only 56,000, meaning as many people as in a small neighborhood of Delhi. But buried beneath these 56,000 people is a treasure worth trillions of dollars, and superpowers are fighting for their future. Today, Greenland is an autonomous territory of Denmark. They have their own parliament, their own government, but foreign policy and defense are still in Denmark's hands. And the biggest thing, Denmark gives $550 million in subsidies every year. This money is 1/3 of Greenland's GDP. Without this, Greenland's economy would collapse. What are the real problems? Unemployment rate, more than 60% alcohol addiction, very serious problem. Education level, very low youth migration towards capital Nuuk, or Denmark still. Greenland's people want independence. In 2008, there was a referendum. 75% of people voted in favor of increased autonomy. Political parties openly talk complete independence by 2030 or 2040. But the question is, how will they survive economically? Denmark knows if Greenland becomes independent, it's weak. China or America, anyone can influence it. And if America uses force, what will Denmark do? That small country, 5.5 million population, how will it fight America? Being a NATO member, fighting America is impossible. Friends, now let's see America's reality. Trump keeps saying, we'll use force. But can they really? Let me tell you America's weaknesses. First, lack of icebreaker ships. Russia, 40, China, 3, soon 6. America, only 2, and both are old. From the 1970s, they break down repeatedly. Congress has approved money to build new ships, but it will take 8 to 10 years to build one ship. And the cost? $1 billion per ship? Second, lack of Arctic infrastructure. America has some bases in Alaska, but they're not sufficient. Compare. Russia's Arctic bases, more than 10 Americas. 5, Russia's investment in the last 10 years, $20 billion. America's, $8 billion. Third, political opposition. Half the population in America itself is against Trump. There will be opposition in Congress. There will be chaos in the media. And at the international level, NATO will break. European countries will protest. There will be condemnation in the United Nations. Fourth, economic cost. Cost to buy Greenland, at least $50 billion. Then investment for development, more than $100 billion. Canada? That's impossible. It's an independent country, can't be bought. But friends, America also has a lot, like Thule Air Base. This is America's most important Arctic base. Without it, the entire missile defense system is incomplete. NORAD partnership, 70-year-old partnership with Canada. Both countries' defenses together. Breaking this is almost impossible. Economic influence, 90% of Canada's trade is with America. Greenland's economy depends on tourism, which comes from American tourists. Technological superiority. America has the most advanced satellite system, the best intelligence, the most powerful navy. The path forward. Solutions for peace. Friends, so far we've seen tension, competition, and conflict. But is this the only way? In my opinion, no. Let me tell you what could be the best solution for the world. First solution, Arctic Treaty, Antarctica Model. In 1959, 12 countries of the world together created the Antarctica Treaty. Its main principles: no military activity, only scientific research, no mining for at least 50 years, environmental protection. This same model can be applied to the Arctic. The Arctic Council already exists, of 8 Arctic countries. It can be strengthened. China and India can also be included as observers. Benefits: threat of war eliminated, environment protected, fair distribution of resources, scientific progress. Second solution, Greenland's independence, but with everyone's help. Let Greenland be independent, but don't leave it alone. Create an international fund. America contributes. $10 billion European Union, $5 billion. China and Japan, $3 billion each. Total, $21 billion. This money to be used for education improvement, health services, infrastructure development, job creation. In return, Greenland agrees, won't give military base to any one country. Resource. Extraction will be according to environment, will accept international monitoring. Third solution, deepen Canada. America partnership. Instead of buying or occupying Canada, create a new arrangement. North American Defense and Economic Union, Joint Defense Force, strengthen NORAD further free trade completely. Joint energy policy, water resource partnership. But Canada's sovereignty remains. Benefits: America gets security, Canada gets economic benefit. Public of both countries. Happy China and Russia's influence limited. Fourth solution, fight climate change. Together, friends, the real enemy is climate change. Arctic ice is melting 3 times faster than the rest of the world. If all of Greenland's ice melts, which is possible by the end of this century, sea level will rise by at least 7 meters. What does this mean? New York will drown. Mumbai will drown. Shanghai will drown. Dhaka, completely finished. More than 2 billion people will be displaced. So instead of fighting for resources, why not save the Earth together? Global Arctic Climate Fund. Every country contributes. According to their GDP total target, $50 billion annually. Use, reduce carbon emissions, renewable energy, ice preservation. Conclusion. The choice is ours. Friends, now let me wrap up this entire story. We saw America's 258-year-old expansion dream, $5 trillion of treasure buried under Greenland. New Cold War in the Arctic. dangerous game of three superpowers, but the truth is, this Earth belongs to all of us. Arctic ice doesn't belong to just America, Russia, or China. It's the heritage of all humanity. If there's war there, the whole world will burn. If the ice there melts, all coastal cities will drown. If greed for resources increases, there could be a third world war. Is this the future we want? No. We need cooperation, not conflict, partnership, not hunger for conquest, conservation, not exploitation, peace, not war. Let Greenland's 56,000 people get freedom. Let Canada's sovereignty remain. Let the Arctic become a center of science, not a war arena. And all of us, America, China, Russia, India, Europe, together, let's save this Earth. Because in the end, it won't be one country that wins. All of humanity will either win or lose. So, friends, if you like this analysis, share it. Write your opinion in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we'll keep bringing such in-depth analyses which mainstream media will never tell you. And remember, knowledge is power. The more we understand, the better future we can create. Thank you.